Is this a great game or what? With the Hall of Famer Tim Kurkjian, I'm Jeff Kurkjian, and we are recording this the evening of opening day to release the day after opening day. And what an opening day it was, Dad.
Yeah, Jeff, it should be a national holiday. We've talked about this. Parents take their children out of school on opening day, and it's for games like we saw today. I mean, you texted me about 5 times today about things that happened. What struck you today as the most amazing thing that you saw?
Well, Dad, there were so many takeaways. I mean, so many things right out of the gate. I mean, Austin Wells hitting a home run to lead off the Yankees at Yankee Stadium.
So, Jeff, here's what I did today. I prepped for today by writing down a bunch of things that I just wanted to make sure I didn't lose sight of. And the first thing I wrote down is Austin Wells going to hit leadoff today for the Yankees? Because no catcher has ever hit leadoff for the Yankees on opening day. And what did he do? The fourth batter of the 2025 real regular season, which started yesterday, hit a home run. So he's the first catcher ever to hit a leadoff home run on opening day. And how about this, Jeff? He's the first Yankee ever to hit a leadoff home run on opening day. And your point was, how can that be with the rich history of the Yankees? How can that be?
You're telling me, and I texted you back, I said that can't be true, and you got it confirmed that a Yankee has never led the season off with a home run, and here we are. Austin Wells does it from the catcher's spot.
Right.
I mean, are you kidding me?
Right. The last catcher to lead off any game with a home run is MJ Melendez of the Royals. He did that in 2022, and that's in any game, not on opening day. And also remember, Austin Wells last year, Jeff, hit cleanup in a postseason game. So the only rookies ever to hit cleanup in a postseason game are Buster Posey and Austin Wells. And then he did that today. And again, Jeff, we search for things on opening day, and I tell people all the time, the beauty of baseball is it never lets you down. If you watch closely enough, amazing things happen. And amazing things happened today. 4 batters into the first game on the real opening day. That was so beautiful. Now, I also wrote down, will Tyler O'Neill hit a home run today? Tyler O'Neill, of course, holds the major league record with a home run in 5 consecutive opening days. And what did he do today with his new team, the Orioles? He hit a home run again. So now he's hit a home run on opening day in 6 consecutive years, extending his own record.
I have to say, and I'm pulling up a text message on my phone, my buddy Joey Firestein, who you know, right, a high school buddy of mine, has one of the best memories of any man I've ever met besides maybe yourself, Dad. He said, cashed my Tyler O'Neill opening day home run bet, Jeff. And then he wrote, a full year later, I remember it from the podcast, had to take a chance to capitalize this year on him hitting another home run on opening day. And the best news is, Dad, he's an Oriole fan. Joey is a fan of the Orioles. He bets for Tyler O'Neill to hit a home run on opening day. He does, all because our silly little podcast mentioned it last year on opening day, and now here he is making money from us.
Right. And remember, Jeff, now, so Tyler O'Neill now has 6 total home runs on opening day, and Bryce Harper has 6. That ties for the most among active players. Now, let's see how well your memory works. Who has the most home runs on opening day in the history of baseball? And if you miss one of them, I'm going to kill you, because he was our guest on the podcast on Tuesday.
Well, I mean, obviously, it's Adam Dunn.
Right.
We just interviewed him. If you missed the interview, you can go back and check that out. Ken Griffey Jr. has 8.
Very good.
Frank Robinson
there you
has
go,
8.
Jeff. I'm proud of you. You're actually listening to what old Pop has to say here. All right, let's see how well you remember this. Give me 2 star players, 2 Hall of Famers who hit a ton of homers and never hit a home run on opening day.
The most. Oh,
you
gosh.
can do this, Jeff. Hall of Famer.
Johnny Bench never hit a home run on opening day.
389, second. Well, I don't know if it's the second most, but I know he hit 389 homers without hitting a homer on opening day. But this Hall of Famer, hint, hint, who just got in, hit 477 and never hit one on opening day. Jeff,
I'm blanking.
I'm so disappointed. I used this on the air 3 days ago with Adam Dunn, and you've already forgotten.
Dad, you have to remember I do a country morning show every morning, and I'm sleep deprived as a father of a toddler.
Jeff, I'm not disappointed. I'm just messing with you. Adrian Beltre.
Adrian Beltre, that's right.
477 homers. So
I think I need to establish something really fast too, Dad. I am on medications right now, and I have some sort of sinus infection allergy. So if you're watching the video, and here's the best part, and the reason why I'm bringing it up on the podcast, Dad. Right after work today, before the game started, I went to a Minute Clinic to get some medicine because I'm so congested and I sound terrible. And the very nice nurse practitioner is talking to me and going through my symptoms. Excuse me. And she says, "Are you always this nasal sounding, or is this a symptom?" And I said, actually, my voice is deep right now for what it usually is. You should meet my dad. I sound just like him. And it just had me laughing because I immediately thought of you, Dad, as if my voice couldn't get nasally enough. Now I have a congested nose, and here we are.
Jeff, if you can't finish the podcast, we can always get Kelly Kurkjian to finish it, because I did a podcast with Kelly, a father-daughter podcast that went very well. I'm sure Kelly could slide in and help us if you can't get through this because you're so nasally.
Well, I will tell you this much. Last time you talked baseball with her, she was a middle schooler, and she said, "Dad, I just got to tell you, I don't like baseball that much."
No offense, but I don't love baseball. I said, "Kelly, honey, it's okay." All right. Now, Jeff, did you watch the Phillies today?
I did watch the
Phillies. What was your takeaway there?
Well, it was, quite frankly, a pitcher's battle for a very, very long time. 13 strikeouts.
Mackenzie Gore of the Nationals.
Unbelievable.
No walks, 13 strikeouts. Third time in the history of opening day that a pitcher had no walks, 13 strikeouts. Bob Gibson, 1967, and J.R. Richard in 1980. And now Mackenzie Gore. And of course, they took him out of the game after 6 innings because no one's allowed to go more than 6 innings on opening day. And of course, Bryce Harper hit a home run in the 7th inning to tie the score. Home run number 6.
And then Kyle Schwarber hit a home run in the 7th inning to put them ahead.
Right, absolutely. Okay, another takeaway, Jeff, was Adley Rutschman of the Orioles hit 2 home runs. A home run in his first at-bat and another one in a romp over the Blue Jays. Now, the lesson here, Jeff, is that Adley Rutschman, he's a great player. But last year, the second half, he had a 585 OPS. Very, very unlike Adley Rutschman. So for the first time in his life, he faced some adversity and he tried to get out of it and he just couldn't figure it out. So I'm told he went home in the offseason and just said, "All right, this isn't good enough." The manager told him, "You're the face of the franchise. You're a great player still." And Adley Rutschman went home, worked with Tim Cousins, who's one of their hitting coaches in the Orioles system. And he came back, I'm told at least, with a different body and a different swing and everything else. And I did one of their spring training games for ESPN on TV. And his first at bat, he hit a home run. And today, in his first at bat of the regular season, he hit a home run. So I fully expect a huge season from Adley Rutschman. It just shows you what can happen when you recognize, all right, I struggled for the first time. I have to do some different things. And then he went out there and did it.
On a note, on our Instagram at Great Game or What, everybody should follow us if you are on Instagram, Facebook as well. We just got a TikTok, Dad. We got a TikTok.
Explain.
Oh, okay. It's an it's an app, with video sharing app, so people can watch our podcast in a different format, or at least portions of it. So you're on TikTok now, Dad.
I've been on TikTok before. You know that. JoJo
Yeah, you danced
Siwa
with
and I
JoJo
were on
Siwa.
TikTok, right?
Good times. Good times. So my point of bringing all of this up is I can't tell you the amount of other podcasts or other TV broadcasters I've seen. I've heard everybody pick a different team for the AL East this year. And I love it because it's the same for the NL East as well. I've seen people picking the Mets, the Braves, the Phillies, or the Yankees, or the Red Sox, or even it's just kind of crazy. And the Orioles, too. How wide open the East in the AL and the NL is going to be with these very competitive teams.
I did a radio show the other day. There were 5 people on the radio show. And of course, we have to pick who's going to win each division. AL East, 5 guys, 5 choices. How about that? All 5 teams, somebody picked them to win the division. I have never seen that before in all the years we've been making these mindless picks in March. I've never seen that before, and it speaks directly to how competitive the American League East is going to be, and the entire American League, Jeff. I'm telling you, there is no great team in the American League. I think the Rangers are the best of the group, but it's going to be an absolute free-for-all in the American League for those playoff spots because there's so many teams that are good, and I don't think any of them is really good. And speaking of the Red Sox, who I think a lot of a lot of people have picked the Red Sox to win that division. And one reason is, they picked up Alex Bregman, which we talked about a couple weeks ago, just how much he's meant to that team. But Christian Campbell made the team. Christian Campbell is one of the 3 really young guys on that team. And I watched him play in spring training, and I was really impressed. He's a great athlete. He's a second baseman, but they put him in the outfield just to see how he could do. And Alex Cora told me this kid is so athletic, but he's so raw. He's just trying to learn how to play the game. And he made the club out of spring training. And I just love it that the Red Sox are going to take a chance on a young guy like this and say, all right, we can win this division with you at second base, having never played in the big leagues before.
Wow.
And he spells his first name Christian with a K. So he is the only player in Major League history to have a first name of Christian, which he spells with a K.
Sounds like he needs to be one of the sons of Roger Clemens.
Right. Kobe and Cody and all that. We
with a K.
With a K, right. All right, Sean Burke of the White Sox won today. Sean Burke had 2 major league victories, and he started on opening day. I just love how opening day allows these things to happen. And then there's Clay Holmes of the Mets, who started on opening day. Jeff, he had made 285 consecutive appearances in relief. And that streak of 285 straight appearances in relief ended with not just a start on opening day. So the only other pitcher who's ever done 150 or more consecutive relief appearances and then made a start on opening day is John Smoltz, who, of course, was a great starter. Then he went to the bullpen. Then he went back to the rotation and started opening day. So that's Clay Holmes' start on opening day was unique. Never been done quite like that before. And just to finish, Jeff, speaking of unique, I don't think you're going to remember this, but in the mid-'90s, well, you weren't even alive, Ron Karkovice of the White Sox went 0 for 5 with 5 strikeouts in one game. So ever since then, since I unearthed that on my own in the mid-'90s, I've been waiting for someone to go 0 for 5 with 5 strikeouts. And a couple, 3 years ago, Max Muncy of the Dodgers went 0 for 5 with 5 strikeouts. And then today, Jackson Chourio, one of the best young players in baseball, went 0 for 5 with 5 strikeouts on opening day. So it had never happened in the history of the game, until the mid-90s. And then Ron Karkovice did it. And then we took almost 30 years off, and now it's been done 2 times in the last 3 years. This is why baseball is the greatest game, Jeff. If you pay attention and you really follow things, all sorts of crazy things are going to happen. And so many crazy things happen on opening day. And that's really just including the afternoon games.
Well, I love being able to do a Friday episode of the podcast because it allows us to do takeaways. Obviously, being that, opening day just happened, this is perfect. But now, like throughout the season, we won't have to, if something amazing happens on a Wednesday, Dad, you won't have to wait until the following Tuesday. The amount of hair you lost because of that, if something would happen on a Wednesday, I can't begin to tell the people, our members of our family that listen to this show, right? Like, Dad would be like, I can't believe we got to do a bonus episode. We got to do something. So
my forehead looks like a 5-head now based on all the hair that I've lost. Sorry, Jeff. All right.
So being that we do an episode on Friday, we obviously get to recap things happening in the latter half of the week, but we also get to do a little bit of our special Friday-only segments, including the best of all. Tim, we are going to go through each major league team, each organization, and Dad is going to give us the best player in that organization. And I chose this week, Dad, for you to give us the Cincinnati Reds because it is major league tradition for the season to start in Cincinnati. It may have changed as of late, but true baseball fans will remember opening day is only the best in Cincinnati. So who do you have for the Reds?
Right. And also we had Adam Dunn on this week, and Adam Dunn was great for the Reds. So as a tribute to him and the number of times he made us laugh. And let's be clear, Jeff, the best of all, Tim, is just my opinion on who I think is the best player in franchise history. That doesn't mean that I'm right about this. There is no correct answer. This is mine. I want our viewers and our listeners to come up with their own. And if you don't like my choice, you can argue with us. This is the beauty of baseball. Very, very few teams have an obvious person. And the Reds are a perfect example, Jeff. Okay, I think it comes down to one. Now, remember, the criteria here is you have to have played for the team for quite some time. You can't just play 1 year there and, okay, well, he's the greatest player of all time and he played for the Reds. It's got to be him. It's what he did for the Reds as much as how great a player was he. So
you're saying like Michael Jordan wouldn't be the greatest Washington Wizard of all time.
That's perfect example, Jeff. Perfect. Thank you.
Different sport, but good example.
You did that with a nasal congestion. Way to go. Okay.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you very much.
So these are the 4 candidates. Frank Robinson might be the greatest player ever to play for the Reds, and his first 8, 9, 10 years, whatever it was, were unbelievably good. But then he, of course, went to the Orioles, won the Triple Crown, won the MVP, did some amazing things with some other teams. But Frank Robinson is no doubt in the conversation as the greatest Red ever. Pete Rose, of course, has to be in there, the all-time hit king who played the majority of his career with the Reds, but played for a bunch of other teams, Phillies included, won a World Series with the Phillies. So you got to put Pete Rose in that conversation. Anyone who votes for Pete Rose, I'm good. Anyone who votes for Frank Robinson, I'm good. Anyone who votes for Joe Morgan, I'm good. Jim Palmer once told me the Big Red Machine didn't become the Big Red Machine until Joe Morgan showed up. Now, he came from the Astros, and when he left the Reds, he did some pretty good things for some other teams. And Joe Morgan is arguably the second greatest second baseman of all time to Rogers Hornsby, at least in my opinion. Won the MVP in 75, 76, back-to-back. An amazing defensive player, great base stealer, just a tremendous all-around player. So anyone who votes for Joe Morgan, I'm good with that. But I'm voting for Johnny Bench, and here's why. I still believe he's the greatest catcher of all time. He revolutionized the position defensively. He hit 389 homers. He won 2 MVPs before he turned 25 years old. And I think this is the key point. He played his entire career for the Reds. So I'm going to take Johnny Bench as the greatest Cincinnati Red of all time. If anyone disagrees, go ahead. Please state your case. We're all friends here. This is not an argument. I'm just going to tell you again, this is my opinion, not the right opinion, not the correct one. You might be right. Make an argument for Morgan, Frank Robinson, Pete Rose, somebody else. Go ahead. It's great.
I think also I'm biased because he was a guest on our show last year.
Right. And Johnny Bench, has represented the game so beautifully
so well
since the day he arrived till right now. I mean, we've talked about him at the Hall of Fame every Friday night before the Sunday induction. Johnny Bench is the MC that welcomes the new Hall of Famers to the club. And I factor that in at least a little bit also.
Every Friday also we do From Ozzie to Orel. So that's the best player at every number from 1, Ozzie to Orel, 55. We started with 1 and 2. If you missed it, go to last Friday's episode in order to hear it. 3 and 4. Dad, we're combining 3 and 4 because, in your opinion, respectfully, there is a pretty clear number 1, 3 and number 1, 4. 5 next week is going to be on its own because it's going to be quite a debate. But let's hear 3. I mean, I can give it. It's Babe Ruth, right?
And it's not pretty clear, Jeff. It is clear, okay? Babe Ruth's greatest number 3 of all time. First player ever to hit 30, 40, 50, and 60 homers in a season. Got 700, and no one else had half that many. He still has as many career shutouts as Pedro Martinez, who, at least for a short period of time, is the greatest pitcher I've ever seen. And I once asked Bert Hawkins, great old baseball writer who covered the game in the 20s, I said, Hawk, who's the greatest player you've ever seen? He looked at me like I'd asked the dumbest question ever. He said, buddy boy, I'll take Babe Ruth, and you can have the next 3. That's how great Babe Ruth was. Lou Gehrig is, without question, the greatest first baseman of all time. And I think you could make a case he's one of the 4 greatest hitters of all time with Ruth, Williams, Barry Bonds, Lou Gehrig. I think you could make that case. I think he's underrated in his own right. When he got sick, Jeff, if he hadn't gotten sick and played a few more years, he would have retired as the all-time leader in RBIs and runs scored. And he was just an amazing player, the greatest first baseman ever, and the first player ever to have his number retired. Number 4. And remember, Jeff, they didn't even have uniform numbers really until Ruth and Gehrig came along. And they were assigned the numbers 3 and 4 because of what?
Where they batted in the batting order.
Babe Ruth hit 3rd, so that's why he wore number 3. Lou Gehrig hit 4th, that's why he wore number 4.
I just have to say, because this always shocks me, because ALS, unfortunately, has affected our family. If you've listened to the podcast, you obviously know my Uncle Matt passed away in 2023, my dad's brother and best friend. Lou Gehrig died at the age of 37. I think when you look at black and white photos, and when you look at the luckiest man on earth photo, right, of him up there, you just think he's older than that. But when I'm 31. And so to think about, in 6 years, right, you're still in a physical prime of your life. You're still an athlete. So for him to do all that he did in his career, and then to obviously, unfortunately, pass away from ALS, later named Lou Gehrig's disease, at the age of 37, the impact he had on the game and on everybody's lives in just 37 years is unbelievable.
It's just not fair. When Cal Ripken broke the record, 21-31, it meant so much more because he broke the record of such a great player who conducted himself the right way every single day of his career. So we're down to so Lou Gehrig and Babe Ruth are our Ozzie To Orel 3 and 4.
All I can say is good luck on 5.
5 is going to be a fist fight next week. And if anyone's listening now and you want to start to get your argument together, I'm not even going to tell you who they are because there's about 5 of them we could discuss. But it's a beautiful argument next week.
And also, we want you to join us next week on the show. We want you to be on our show. Yeah, you listening right now, mowing your lawn or driving your car or doing whatever you do when you listen to us, because on Fridays, we will bring in a different listener for I Am A Seamhead. All right. And this is highlighting why you are a baseball seamhead. We want to hear in a shortened version, right? Dad's would be, let me do my Tim Kurkjian impression. Hold on. Okay. I cut out the box score of every game from 1968 to 2018, which is way more impressive than Cal Ripken's record, by the way.
Jeff.
And I'm Tim Kurkjian, and I am a seamhead.
Right. And we're looking for seamheads, and seamhead is a compliment, Jeff. I used to host Baseball Tonight. We called it the Seamhead edition because we brought on people who love the game, maybe obsessively, maybe in an unhealthy way. And I am the captain of that team. But this week, we have Judson Birch, who used to be a producer at ESPN, one of the smartest people I've ever met. He is a complete lunatic when it comes to umpires. I have never met anybody quite like him. So let's listen to Judd Birch's I Am a Seamhead.
My name is Judson Birch, and I am a seamhead because I love the umpires. I can name the umpires in numerical order by sleeve number. I keep track of famous games in baseball history by who the plate umpire was, and not just obvious ones like the Pine Tar game being Tim McClelland. I mean like Game 5 of the 1980 NLCS. It was Ed Vargo. Or Derek Jeter's Mr. November walk-off, Ed Rapuano. A friend once thought he was going to stump me when he asked, how many American League umpires from 1985 can you name? I said, all of them, and gave him the roster from memory in numerical order by sleeve number. And if you ever go to a game with me during the 7th inning stretch, I do the 1, 2, 3 strikes you're out portion of the song using the strike mechanic of that day's plate umpire. And that's why I'm Judson Birch, and I am a seamhead.
If there's ever a seamhead out in the world, it's Judd Birch. That's for sure. Did he go, Judd?
So, Jeff, every time I do a game, I call Judd Birch and ask him, I said, Jordan Baker's got the plate tonight. Tell me about him. And he'll tell you where the strike zone is, what he's good at, what he's not so good at. And then he'll throw in things like tallest umpire in the league. I mean, these are the things that he knows. And Buck Showalter and I were in the war room at ESPN years ago, and it's a random Tuesday night in August. And Judd just wanders into the war room, loves baseball, loves to sit and watch games with us. Random Tuesday night. And I just say to him, who's working second base tonight in Texas? And he looks at me and he goes, Adrian Johnson. Without any understanding of what I was going to ask him, I asked him for the second base umpire in a random game in Texas. And without hesitation, he said, Adrian Johnson.
Wow.
That is a seamhead.
What did Buck Showalter do? How did he react
just
to
shook
that?
his head because Buck's a seamhead also. Let's be clear about that.
Yep.
But no one, and I mean no one, knows more about umpires than Judd Birch. In fact, he was going to go to umpire school to be a real umpire when he got the job at ESPN. And this was like 30 years ago. And he ended up being a producer at ESPN instead of being a major league umpire. And that thing where he says 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out, and uses the home plate umpire's strike call is unhealthy beyond words, but it's what makes Judd an absolute national treasure, especially when it comes to umpires.
You can submit a voice note. You can email me personally, jeff@greatgameorwhat.com, and we'll let you know when you're going to be on the show. So send us your voice notes. You can record it right into your phone, email it right to me via the phone, or if you're like my dad, you can have your son show you how to do that, because that's what I do for my dad. So to wrap up today's Friday episode, Dad, a little on this date in history. In Kurkjian history.
Right. And again, Jeff, this is a relationship show. It's a father and son show, and we're really proud of that. Today is my mom's 100th, what she would be 101 today. Nana was born in 1924. She was born in Bournemouth, England, came here, married my father, and grew up in a baseball household, knowing almost nothing about baseball because she wasn't born in this country, but she learned pretty quickly living in our house with a husband who was a really good player and loved the game, with two sons who are in the Baseball Hall of Fame at Catholic University, and with dopey little youngest son, Tim, who loved the game as much as anyone in the house. So,
who is a Hall of Famer now as well.
Nana was the greatest. So my dad, your grandfather, Pop, who we named you after, he used to joke around when he was 68 years old, 75 years old. He would say things like, yeah, I'm a better hitter now. I'm a better hitter than Joe DiMaggio. And he was joking that he's a better hitter now than Joe DiMaggio, which might have been true because I watched my dad go in the batting cage at age 75, and it was pretty impressive, I must say. So as a little gag gift, I got one of those license plate, what's it called? Borders, holders?
Yeah, frames. Yeah.
A license plate frame for my dad's car. And the license plate frame read, better hitter than Joe DiMaggio. So that was on the back of his car for years. So when my dad died, sadly, my mother started driving his car. So she came home one day, Jeff, and again, she wasn't born in this country. And she said, Tim, I have a question for you. I'm a little bit confused. I was at a stoplight today, and the man next to me rolled down his window and yelled at me and said, I bet you weren't a better hitter than Ted Williams. And she said, I'm not sure what he meant by that. So I had to tell Nana about the whole thing about better hitter than Joe DiMaggio. That's what Pop used to always joke. And this guy saw the license plate frame and then said, I bet you're not a better hitter than Ted Williams. Pretty good.
Yeah, that reminds me of the days, when Kelly was learning how to drive, you had that sticker on the back of the car that said, like, new driver, like, be cautious. But I remember you would drive around town yourself in that same car. And I always think it's comical when people get into cars and it's like baby on board and there's no baby because they forgot to take the sticker off, right. Or new driver and it's an 80-year-old man.
Right. Well, that's
or better hitter than Joe DiMaggio and it's Nana. I love that story.
Nana was the greatest. Happy birthday to my mother. She would have been 101 years old today. Greatest mom, greatest wife, greatest grandmother. And you know that, Jeff, of all time.
You're right, Dad. Greatest grandmother ever. And next week, Tuesday, we're back with you with a new episode and a new interview as well. We're going to be chatting with Dallas Braden. And the funny part is, it's going to release on April the 1st, April Fool's Day. And Dad, you asked me, when I say April Fool's Day, who's one guest that you think we should bring on? And without hesitation, I said Dallas Braden. And I mean that in a great way because he is a character. He's funny. He's fun. He's different. He's interesting.
He's great. And he pitched a perfect game in the major leagues. And we will get him to laugh. And he will tell us the story where he laughed so hard in the Chicago Wrigley Field press box that he had to get out of we're broadcasting a game. He had to get out of his chair and leave. He was laughing so loud on the air. And he will explain why he was so laughing so hard on Tuesday.
Thank you so much for listening. And as always, thank you for being a part of our family.